I, along with the Board of Trustees, are so very proud, honored, and inspired by the dedication and tireless efforts that the Thompson staff has given in the service of others. With that, I am pleased to introduce Will Jones, President and CEO of Thompson, and Matt Simon, Chief of Programs. Gentlemen.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gilbert, and thank you to everyone who is listening and plugging in. Those of you who've supported Thompson over the years, and those of you who might be newer to Thompson. We couldn't do what we do without your support. I have the privilege today of providing you all with an overview of the incredible work being done every day here at Thompson. A quick housekeeping note. If you have questions about anything throughout the presentation, go ahead and enter those questions into the chat function. We've got some folks who will be monitoring that, and we'll be sure to save some time at the end of the event for some questions and answers. So with that out of the way, let's go and talk about what Thompson is doing every day to strengthen children, families, and communities. So Thompson provides a diverse service continuum to our community under 3 core pillars. Those pillars are early childhood services, mental health services, and family support and stability. Thompson's pillar of early childhood services is really part of what makes us so unique in this space. Why does Thompson invest in early childhood work? Because we are committed to moving the human service system more upstream, proactively supporting children during those critical foundational years. Research consistently affirms that the earlier the intervention, the better the outcome for kids and families. Under this pillar, Thompson operates 3 core services. First and foremost is our 5-star Child Development Center. Our TCDC was one of only 33% of early childhood centers in our community which remained fully operational throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. I believe we took 1 day off to get things in order. And for many parents, both prior to the pandemic, but this year in particular, access to high quality and affordable childcare makes all the difference between losing or keeping their job and their sense of stability. And not only was our child care center able to remain open this year, but we actually opened our doors even wider than usual. We offered our space to an organization called Charlotte Bilingual Preschool. When the pandemic hit and restrictions were put in place that impacted Charlotte Bilingual's ability to use their regular facility, that dynamic was actually putting them at risk of closure. By partnering with Thompson, they've actually been able to not only survive, they've been able to thrive and continue to serve the underserved Latino population in our community. At our child care center, we have over 75 children being served every day, and we are enrolling new children every week. Our early childhood impact team works to ensure that no child is expelled from their early childhood education setting, because at Thompson, we believe that every child, regardless of their behavior challenges, which often stem from significant trauma, deserves high quality early childhood education. This team is impacting children across more than 64 classrooms right now across our community. 85% of those children we serve are showing developmental and behavioral progress. And 99% of those children served in this program over the last year have avoided expulsion. And lastly, our newest program to the early childhood pillar is our MEC Pre-K Navigator program. Although this program just launched 1 year ago, we've actually already seen a 3x growth in this program. As Mecklenburg County seeks to expand universal pre-K in this community, they've recognized that many of their children and families have significant needs that frankly were beyond their scope. So they reached out to Thompson. These families now receive high quality assessments, case management, and individual behavior supports in the classroom. And I'm happy to say that 100% of parents have reported that their Navigator team made a positive impact in their life. And through this program, Thompson plans to be a foundational component of Mecklenburg's growing universal PK program indefinitely. Our next pillar is family support and stability services. These programs are dedicated to making true multi-generational impact by involving the entire family system in the change process. A Child's Place. A Child's Place is a program that Thompson acquired less than a year ago and was actually just recently spotlighted in a Fox 46 news story. Unfortunately, there are over 4,000 children and families experiencing homelessness in our communities that we're aware of. The actual number is likely much larger. A Child's Place is dedicated to supporting these families, and we provide them with intensive case management that helps them achieve housing stability and self-sufficiency. Since acquiring ACP, Thompson has evolved this program in truly remarkable ways. We have embedded therapists into the fabric of this work, so we are now addressing underlying mental health challenges that often exacerbate the family's housing situation. We're serving over 120 families. We're adding new social workers to meet the growing demand, and we expect to help upwards of 300 to 400 families get on a pathway towards stability this year. Although ACP is new to Thompson, it's already established itself as a critical and core service in our continuum. Thompson is also the premier provider of family education services and the sole provider of family partners work throughout Mecklenburg County. We are serving over 200 families and providing multiple evidence-based classes to parents who, with just a little additional support and education, can experience great success in raising their children. This year, Thompson has also intentionally recruited and onboarded several new bilingual parent educators so that we can remove language barriers for many of our most vulnerable families in the community. And now I want to draw your attention to the number 219% on your screen. 219%. That represents the growth that Thompson's foster care program experienced just in the last year alone. And over the last 3 years, our foster care program has grown by nearly 10 times. There is a foster care crisis in the state of North Carolina. Thompson's been working every day to be a part of that solution. And in addition to growth, Thompson is also working with key stakeholders across the state and across the country to bring new and innovative and more effective models of foster care to bear in North Carolina. And lastly, in this pillar is our Friends of the Children program, which is concluding its 3rd full year of operation this year. What started off with a small handful of kindergartners is now serving 56 of Charlotte's highest needs children every day through professional, lifelong mentoring. As we've seen these youth grow, we've been able to witness incredible transformation. Children going from basically being nonverbal, traumatized kindergartners to now being flourishing, engaged, excited, and energetic 3rd graders due to the power of that mentoring relationship. Friends of the Children will continue to add new cohorts of children in 2021 with a focus on kids and families who are involved in the child welfare system. An extremely proud moment for me recently was watching how our Friends of the Children, our children team stepped into the gap this fall after CMS announced that school was going to be virtual. Our staff, within a matter of days, were able to stand up an in-person learning pod for the children we served in that program who we knew were at risk of falling behind in a virtual learning environment. Without that resource of staff supervision and support, ensuring that the kids were engaged, many of them would have slipped through the academic cracks. Thompson was simply not going to allow that to happen. And our last pillar, but in many ways what is the foundation of who we are because it weaves through everything we do, let's talk about our mental health services. Thompson is truly unique in that we offer a service to match every level of intensity on the mental health spectrum. Wherever a child's mental health needs are, big or small, we have a program that will meet them right where they're at. Our mental health services are currently receiving an average of 95% patient satisfaction, and our data is showing that 70% of clients are meeting or exceeding their treatment goals. On this service continuum, we have our outpatient therapy team, which has grown by nearly tenfold in the last 3 years and is now providing office-based, school-based, and virtual therapy across the state of North Carolina. We are serving nearly 1,000 clients per month, and we are investing in our therapists to become certified in multiple evidence-based practices by partnering with universities such as Duke and UNC Chapel Hill. Now, we know many of the kids that Thompson serves need more than what basic counseling can offer. So Thompson has strategically added several enhanced services, which work with families multiple times per week and are on call to them 24/7 in the case of crisis. Our intensive in-home program has grown from serving 10 youth 3 years ago to now serving 50 families on any given day. And although historically this service was Charlotte-based alone, we were recently granted the ability to provide this service across 22 counties in North Carolina. Aftercare data, where we follow clients post-discharge, is actually showing that 100% of clients successfully discharged from this program continue to maintain mental health stability. High Fidelity WRAP. High Fidelity WRAP has grown from serving one family in the winter of 2018 to serving over 60 families today. By next summer, we will likely be serving at least 100 families in this program. Due to WRAP's track record over the last 2 years of stabilizing families and preventing higher levels of care, it was recently chosen by Medicaid to pilot new, innovative, value-based contracting in 2021. This is another example of how Thompson is really pushing the envelope in the mental health space and demanding better outcomes from our system. Our RISE program provides individual life coaching to youth 16 to 21, and 84% of those youth are showing statistically significant development in core life skills. Although the youth in this program are often youth who are at risk of turning to a life of crime or substance abuse or homelessness when they turn 18, RISE is giving them the tools to thrive and start their adulthood on a firmer foundation. This is another program that is less than 2 years old and is currently serving 4 times as many clients now as when it started. And last, but certainly not least, are the youth that are being served every day in the programs on our beautiful campus in Matthews, North Carolina. The youth who receive these 24/7, 365 residential treatment programs represent the most traumatized and often the most disenfranchised youth across the Carolinas. We are currently serving 40 youth across 6 unique programs. One of our newer programs, named Adira, is one of the only residential programs in the Southeast dedicated to working with adolescent female survivors of sex trafficking. Bottom line, we are using our wonderful resources on campus to meet needs that often no one else is willing to meet, and it's changing lives. Needless to say, what's that? Needless to say, it's an absolute honor being the chief of programs at an organization that is doing such good work. I love my job and I love Thompson. Now, we didn't get to where we are by accident. It took true visionary leadership to start this transformation that we've experienced. And I'm happy to turn this event over to our leader, Will Jones. So Will, it's all yours.
Thanks, Matt. First and foremost, thank you to the Thompson Board of Trustees, our community committee members, and the entire Thompson team of over 270 full-time employees. You know, it's an honor to lead and work in conjunction with people in the community and with our industry that care so much about what they're doing. 26 years in this business, and I've never been prouder to be part of an organization than I am of Thompson. I want to walk through a little bit of the impact over the last year. As you can see, we've continued to grow our impact year over year over the last 3 years. In all 3 service areas, as Matt described earlier today, including early childhood, mental health, and family stability. A big part of that was the Child's Place acquisition and our foster care growth in particular. So as you can see, year over year, we continue to increase impact. Next slide, Justin, please. And while we increase impact, we continue to work to be good financial stewards. As I know, many on this this call are board members, committee members, and donors that understand the complete history of the work that we're doing here at Thompson. What you see in front of you is a snapshot of our revenue versus expenses from 16 and 17, all the way to 19 and 20 in Q1 of this fiscal year. We're happy to say that along with our increased impact, we've been better financial stewards of all dollars that are given to the organization through philanthropy or earned through Medicaid billables and contracts. And as you can see, it's a tremendous amount of growth over the last 3 years. Another thing that's really important to us in the organization is long-term sustainability. We believe that it's a huge responsibility to work in an organization that's ingrained into the fabric of Charlotte, like Thompson Child and Family Focus, 134 plus years in our community. And all of us want to be part of a legacy that lasts for another 130 years as well. And part of that is how we're utilizing our endowment year over year. Again, just wanted to provide a snapshot of the last 6 or 7 year performance of our endowment draw summary. As you can see, organizationally, we leaned heavily on our endowment and a line of credit in 14 and 15, started to decrease that in 16. And what you see over the last 3 years is a tremendous decrease in dependence on the endowment to operate and grow. I'm happy to say, and this is calendar year, I'm happy to say we haven't touched our endowment since September of 2019. So we're well over a 12-month period without a dependence or codependence on our endowment. And what that does for us is that it continues to allow us to set ourselves up for long-term sustainability. So the mission continues in years and years to come. And it's really important that we do that. And also it's important for you to know that this includes a debt service that's being covered by operating as well. So with this, we're preparing ourselves not only for the present, but also for the future, which we'll talk about here momentarily. Now, because of the work being done over the last few years, we're much more than a Charlotte area organization. That being stated, the bulk of what we do is in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg community, but over the last couple of years, we grew out west to the Asheville area and the surrounding counties, where we've been providing both foster care and therapeutic services to communities of need. And one of the things that happened during the pandemic, excuse me, was we increased our impact into Eastern North Carolina, establishing an office presence in Wilmington, North Carolina. Also, this includes presence in Durham and Wake counties, all across our foster care continuum. As Matt talked about earlier, when I arrived here a little over almost 4 years ago in a few months, we had 27 foster homes serving 27 children. Today, we have over 225 foster homes serving approximately 223 children from what Matt is saying is the coast to the mountains. So we're excited about that work. In addition to that, we've increased our footprint in Charlotte as well with an office uptown through our Child's Place merger and acquisition that happened in February and March of this year, prior to COVID-19 rearing its ugly head, as Gilbert stated. One of the biggest things that we believe that is important for us is not only are we good stewards of what we're doing in increased impact, but also that we're investing back into our asset base in our facilities. Those of you who have been around our facilities knows that our Chief Facilities Officer, Danny Whitley, and his team have done a tremendous job. What you see here are 3 recent projects that happened all in the middle, again, of the COVID pandemic, to include renovation of our administration building lobby. The year before, we did our flooring, $200,000 renovation to our playground at the Thompson Child Development Center was just completed a few weeks ago, which is a snapshot of the middle picture. And then through the support of philanthropy, we were able to build out and renovate a complete training center in our St. Peter's Lane administration building. So we're excited about that. But when you have the asset base that we have at Thompson, it's important that we continue to work to reinvest back into that asset base, again, all around sustainability, and that we're providing an environment that's both therapeutic to the families and children we're serving. I'm proud to say in the last 3 years that we've invested over $1.2 million in asset upgrades into our facilities and have not been dependent on our endowment to do so. So we're really proud of the fact and appreciate the support of the philanthropic efforts of individuals, foundations, and corporations to assist us in that. But some of that's just good business. We're able to take some of the profit margin that we're able to make on some of our service lines and reinvest them back into the capacity at Thompson. So the pandemic has been an interesting time, not only in our community, but also at Thompson. For us, it highlighted and exposed some of the needs in our communities even further. As Gilbert stated, we made an intentional decision to lean into the needs at the beginning of the pandemic. Matt alluded to the fact that only 33% of early childhood centers stayed open during the months of March, April, May, and June. We made a conscientious decision that we needed to be there for first responders and really people that live on the poverty spectrum that ended up being first responders, those that are working in the grocery stores, those that were showing up to do things that we needed in order to just survive as a community. And without childcare, they would have lost their employment, and the opportunity for upward social mobility would have been diminished that much greater. So one of the things that we did, and we did several things at the beginning of the pandemic. First and foremost, we leaned into our supporters, many that are on this line, foundations, corporate entities, to say that we're here, we're making a conscientious decision not to shut down or pare back on any service that we deliver. We felt like we had to be here, that our staff were heroes, that our employees were first responders, and that we needed to be there for the communities that we serve. So our Child Development Center has stayed open the entire time. Again, one of the few that have. In addition to that, Matt mentioned the fact that we were able to support another mission through partnership at that center, allowing Charlotte Bilingual Preschool to continue their mission during the pandemic. If you're not familiar with that organization, 80% of the children that they serve are actually parents of undocumented immigrants that come to our community, and they need to work. In addition to that, those children need to learn and grow. Another thing that happened is in our residential services area that we've stayed 95 to 100% full from March to present in our residential services. We felt it was important to do so. As many of you know, that the children that we're serving have high acute needs that require psychiatric residential treatment. Anything other than that would have created further fragmentation or trauma in their lives and in the lives of their families. Another thing we did on the back of support of individuals was we immediately raised food for the essentials, food, housing, and technology at that time for our constituency, those that we were already serving. Before a community COVID response fund was developed, we were already raising money to assist the clients that we were serving. Predominantly, those homeless students and families with a Child's Place received several thousands of dollars of support with food, housing, and technology. In addition to that, we raised dollars to buy Chromebooks for our children being served in our Friends of the Children program. Another thing we were able to do was rapidly pivot to utilize one of our facilities on our campus in Matthews to become a shelter for a Child's Place families. And to the day still support one family in that shelter. Now, we knew that was temporary, but it was a need in March, April, May, and June. And now we're pivoting into something else on behalf of those families, but also into how we do work on our campus. We also were able to open a learning pod for our Friends of the Children students that are currently kindergarten through third grade in conjunction with our Child Development Center on West Boulevard in Clanton. And we're proud of the fact that we were able to do that because we know that right now children are struggling educationally, and not just the children that were already pre-existingly struggling because of supports, but many of our own children are struggling because homeschool environments or utilizing virtual learning. But that learning pod has really enabled us to ensure that those children that are at the highest level of risk of negative life outcomes that we serve have an opportunity to report to our learning pod, have somebody there to help them plug into technology, tutor them, and assist them through their educational day. And the outcomes to date have been phenomenal. Another thing that we did was pivot our clinical programs to all virtual and teletherapy. And we did that fairly quickly. And what we've seen is actually higher utilization of our therapeutic milieu during the pandemic. Not only that, we've all the way up until the month of November, we've continually increased in the number of clinical services being provided over a 30-day window. So as you can understand that the pandemic has created a lot of exacerbated needs, know that Thompson has been able to fill some of the void, not all of it, but we've been able to grow in our impact and adapt quickly because of the support, again, of people like yourselves, corporate entities and foundations to be able to meet that need. And then the other big thing that happened in May of 2020 was we acquired 65 foster homes from an organization that was looking to get away from foster care as a service in Eastern North Carolina, which enabled us to open up that office in Wilmington. And then we leveraged that with a $750,000 grant asked to the Duke Endowment to expand our foster care footprint in Eastern North Carolina, which was awarded effective July of 2020. So we're really excited about what we're able to do and what we've done to expand our foster care continuum out to Eastern North Carolina. So that's just a little bit of our COVID response. You know, the reason we put the COVID response there is we bridge to where we're going and the ongoing needs of our community. COVID will have a big impact about where Thompson and other organizations like Thompson go. So what COVID has done in conjunction with a convergence of reform that was already in the pipeline in North Carolina, it has continued to expose needs and fractured systems. So we already have a convergence of reform happening for child welfare, juvenile justice, and Medicaid in our state as we move towards integrated and whole health. In addition to that, we believe the pandemic has really exposed the need for reform in early childhood education. And those four areas will really lead into how we respond to the community in the next 6, 12, 18, and 24 months. So there's a lot of things happening at Thompson present day to prepare for that, as you can imagine. A couple things that I'm happy to report back is that we're preparing to open up a brand new residential program for at-risk youth in partnership with a group called Alliance Health Services and Cumberland County Department of Social Services. Again, that will be our Williamson Cottage. We're anticipating that we're serving 8 young men as of March, end of March, early April of 2021. For those of you who don't know, that Williamson is the last cottage that we're licensing on our campus. 3.5 years ago, we had 5 empty cottages in conjunction with our upper campus cottage, which was underutilized. So now what we're going to have is 100% of our utilization being used, 100% of our assets being used to provide services to youth. The Child's Play shelter, the need for that is dissipated over time. We were using our Williamson cottage for that during the pandemic. We are now in a position to pivot and adapt to provide services to the child welfare population from Cumberland County and Matthews. So we're excited about that. In addition to that, the ongoing growth into teletherapy will continue to happen, and that will enable Thompson to provide needed clinical services, not just to people during the pandemic, which is a need, but once the pandemic moves forward and the vaccines roll out and there's, the need for virtual settings aren't as great, we'll move forward with teletherapy to provide services in our rural communities in North Carolina as well. Foster care will continue to be an ongoing area of growth for us across the state. We're currently in discussions with Forsyth County Department of Social Services, which is the Winston-Salem area, to expand our foster care and mental health footprint into that community in the next 6 months. Again, so we're excited about that. All of this is based on current gaps and unmet need in those communities. So we're working hard to fill the gaps, not only locally, but also in other areas, other communities of the state where we currently do not operate. In addition to that, we'll continue to invest our time, effort, and even some of our resources heavily into trauma-focused therapies in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. We're going to continue to go deeper with school-based therapies when schools come back online. Of course, we anticipate most of that will happen in August of 2021, but that will be a continued impetus for us as well. In addition to the fact that we're also going further upstream into our early childhood education lane, not only will we increase our census at our Child Development Center, we're currently in discussion with the potential to operate an additional mission-driven child development center on the West Boulevard corridor. That's early stages, but currently we've been invited to have discussions as a candidate in response to a recent RFP there. We will continue to go further into infant mental health work and prevention work in the Charlotte, Mecklenburg area and surrounding counties as well. So as you can imagine, I always say the Charlotte area is such a great place for us to live and work, and for me to raise my children and for you to raise your children, or many of you have already raised your children, but it's not like that for the entire community. Until it's like that for the entire community, we're going to continue to go deeper. We're going to continue to lean in. We're going to continue to ask for support of individuals, of corporate, of foundations, because the community requires it and the families in this community deserve it. But it's been an honor to serve. I'm excited about the work that we've done, but I'm more excited about the work that's yet to be done here at Thompson. That being said, we're going to need your assistance, your support, your discernment, your prayers as we continue to lean into this community. Thank you so much. I think we'll now prepare to answer questions.